Wembley! We're the famous Sheffield United and we go to Wembley.
Famous Sheffield United and we go to Wembley.
What's happening, Blades? What a day yesterday. Absolutely brilliant. Obviously, it's yesterday as I record. I don't know when you'll catch it because obviously this will be out first to members. Thank you to our members for supporting us. Nice to meet a few of you yesterday. In fact, I want to draw on that point because I met loads of people yesterday that it was just so random. I've never experienced out like it. Ramble's obviously spreading further than I'd imagined, so great to meet some of you yesterday, and thank you for making yourselves known. I did wear my Ramble top for those of you that were wondering. And yeah, a few introduced yourselves, and it were great. Special shout out to Michael Needham, who I met in the box park, and also Mick. Great to meet you, Mick, and others as well. There were loads of people that came up, so it were lovely that, and I've never experienced out like it. Like I said, so it were a little bit. Yeah, it was just great. It was lovely. I tell you what, that box park were unbelievable. Really good, really good. We got there a little bit later than I think a lot of early chaos had been there, but just a fantastic atmosphere, and it was throughout the day. Andy the Blade rightly was saying that, you know, this will be the best part of the day, don't you, before we get to football? And, you know, we know that as Blades, don't we? We know that that's what's going to be the case. So, yeah, just, I can't speak highly enough. We knew, I don't think any of us will be disappointed in result because I think it were expected. If there's ever been, we don't like using this term, do we? But if there's ever been a free hit, that were it yesterday. I know we wanted to win it. I were umming and ahhing as to what team I wanted him to pick. Seeing Flecking, it doesn't inspire me these days, unfortunately. He's been a fantastic servant to the club. I'd have liked to have seen Billy lead us out. But I thought yesterday, nobody disgraced themselves. There were a couple of things, and I think we've got to be honest in terms of reflecting on performance. I think it certainly, well, it hopefully gives Eki some food for thought in terms of who stood up and who didn't. Going through the team, I thought Wes did okay. Wasn't very busy and obviously picked the ball out of back at net 3 times. And Nell I thought were decent. Egan very good, although I've not seen the game back because we were late getting back. It were after midnight when I landed at home. And then I were up early doors this morning because my trade-off for being away all day yesterday, where I had to go to the coast all day today. So that's just what you do, innit? That's life, unfortunately. That were my trade-off. So I hadn't had a chance to watch any of the game back. I've seen clips and little bits and bats, but I hadn't seen any of the goals back. And I thought, looking at it, it looked from where I was that Jebos were a rash challenge and unnecessary. Now that is the ignorance of youth, for want of a better way of putting it. So unfortunate because we'd held them. We'd held them until that point, and don't get me wrong, they were the better team, but I thought we'd stood up to them really well and looked solid. We're always a tough team to break down, and that just offered it up on a plate, didn't it? So it were unnecessary, but I certainly wouldn't be beating him with a stick about it. It was Lowe's mistake that really annoyed me. Just naive and unaware of what's around him. You're playing against best team in the world. I can't. And then it looked like Fleck stepped off as Mahrez is running with ball. It looked like Egan were reluctant to go in because maybe they were watching Haaland. But as I say, I haven't watched it back, so apologies if I've got certain players wrong. But I thought Egan played very well yesterday. But I thought for the goal, the second goal, he looked like he were a bit gun shy in terms of going in for the challenge on Mahrez, and I saw Robinson turn around like he were doing a do-si-do. I mean, this goes back to my point really. I thought again, so we had the back five really playing well. I thought overall. Lowe let himself down with a lapse in concentration. I thought he struggled massively against Mahrez. I thought Robinson looked okay, but again, didn't impact the second goal where he could have done. I think that highlights to me that those two are not cut out for the Premier League. And I know it's one game, but I've been saying it for some time, particularly on Robinson, but I'm not a huge Lowe fan. And let's be right, if Reece were fit, Lowe won't be starting. So, areas for improvement there and food for thought in terms of where we strengthen next season. I thought George Baldock did himself proud and did us proud, as he always does. I am biased towards George at this point. And then in centre, I thought Norwood were hit and miss, okay. Didn't let himself down, but didn't cover himself in glory, got caught a couple of times. I thought Fleck was slightly disappointing. I thought Sander were possibly our best player on pitch, particularly in possession. I know he's not great out of possession, but he looked a natural in that sort of environment. And this is what we've talked about, isn't it? I think he will perform better. And he even said it afterwards in his interview, which I did catch, which was, and he talked on SUTV before about the Championship being just chaos at times. And what he meant was it's so busy and the pitches are tight, and because the quality isn't as high, it's a lot more in your face and sort of it's more about the enthusiasm and the drive than it is the quality. And in the Premier League and in games like yesterday, you get a little bit more time on the ball, and it's more what you do with that possession rather than, oh my God, I've got to get rid of it and I've got to make sure I get an accurate pass out and keep the ball moving and move their team around. So we've always said here that Sander will be better in the Prem, and I think that's right. I think he'll look good for us next year. I say for us, I'll come on to that. Speaking of whether they're going to be with us next year, Illiman, I thought, do you know, I didn't think he played that great. And listen, I'm a big one for saying Illiman is judged by his own ridiculous standards. So overall, in terms of an even scale, I still think he had a good game. But for you could tell he were up against players of not just a level above, the 2 or 3 levels above, aren't they? Because a lot of Premier League teams struggle against these boys. But yeah, I thought it didn't always come off for him. So it were interesting to see that, because we obviously assume that he's going to adapt to the Premier League, and I think he will. But he weren't quite on top of his game yesterday. Interesting. Jebo, I thought, will be certainly disappointed with his error for the first goal. Bit of naivety, as I say, and I think he will recover. I hope he recovers from it. I'm sure he will. I didn't think he had a massive impact on the game, but he were going to be chasing shadows most of the game anyway, let's be right. McBurney came on, looked okay, I thought. McBurney, he takes a lot of stick, and aesthetically, he never looks great. I don't think he looks like he's putting a lot of effort in. I don't think he looks like, because he's a bit gangly and lanky, I don't think he always looks like the most technically gifted players, but he had some decent touches, I thought, yesterday, and linked the play quite well. He should have scored. Billy came on, and I thought Billy again had another good game, lively. I thought he should have led us out, if I'm honest. But I thought Billy looked good again. Obviously, we know he's in twilight, and I'm not convinced he should come with us to Premier League. But I thought he certainly picked up ante, and he's doing all he can to earn another contract. He put it on a plate for McBurney for a consolation goal. Just don't know where it went wrong, to be honest. Bash coming on. I thought the substitutions that he made, Bash came on, Bogle, Koulibaly, who looked good, I thought, when he came on for Fleck. It didn't do Fleck any favours, that sub. I thought they were, other than Koulibaly, really, I thought they were kind of reward subs. They felt like, obviously, we're resting out. As soon as game's 3-0 against best team in the world. It's gone, hasn't it? And although we'll keep trying till the end, which I appreciate, he did a little bit of the old, the Burnley, the white flag. So he brought off George, he brought off Anel, he brought off Sander, who are going to be rested for Wednesday, because that's now attention shifts to Wednesday to try and seal promotion. So I thought there were sort of reward subs in terms of Basham's been a great servant for us, get him on, and he'll be with us next year. Well, Bash's contract's till end of next season. But players, you know, it don't come around often, does it, playing at Wembley? Jayden Bogle's played a big part for us this year, brought him on. Billy Sharp were always going to get on the pitch because it may well be his last season with us. So yeah, I thought, nice touch from Eki. It were expected, as I say, but what I were more impressed with, and I think it bodes well for the attitude of the team and the club, as you know, the standards of the club at the moment. When they're all coming out and being interviewed last night, it weren't all smiles and happy to be there. Yes, they knew they were up against it, and the general vibes we got, and there were Eki's interview, I've seen Baldock and Sander also interviewed afterwards, and it were all a case of, we knew it were going to be tough, but we handed them that. So, and I like that attitude. It's not just a case of, well, you know, it's Man City and we were always going to get beat, which I think we all thought, but we know we're a tough side to beat, and we did offer up some goals yesterday, so that were disappointing. I'm going to be doing a video on an updated video, if you like, because now we know what league we're going to say now. After Wednesday, or hopefully at least by Saturday, we'll know that hopefully we're a Premier League club. So it's a lot clearer now as to what the future's going to be, but we're aware of the finances of the club. And it's not a pretty picture, but obviously a lot of it will be alleviated by promotion. You've also got to think, a lot of people yesterday were asking me about Dozy, and I haven't got an update from my last one. From what I understand, he wasn't there yesterday. And it's looking like the original plan will not take place, because how long does it go on for? I don't know when the exclusivity period is, but you've got to assume the way that all parties are talking about it, and Darren Smith saying that, you know, it'll all become very clear very soon. You've got to think that the exclusivity is almost here in terms of ending in that regard. As I said, the information I had was if it comes to that, there will be a legal challenge from Dozy, because from what I'm told, he believes he hasn't been given a fair shake, and everything he's provided should meet the requirements of the EFL and things of that nature. So I expect this to rumble on, even if it's not a clear outcome at the moment, which doesn't help any of us. The uncertainty is something we don't need really, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a terrible issue. The embargo's been lifted, so we can now look at contracts again. It's clear that the Prince has got a plan for next season. It were nice to see him on SUTV talking like that. He'll still want to sell the club, but while ever he's here, it's in his interest to make sure we're successful. Obviously, he's now potentially, if the Dozy deal can't be resurrected or completed in time, or renegotiated, or whatever it needs to happen, then he's going to command a higher fee for the club. So if another deal rumbles on like this and we're relegated next season, he don't even get the money that he's got this time, does he? So from Dozy. So, but with this, if the deal doesn't go through, the reason I'm banging on about this element is Dozy has put close to 15 million in the club, from what I am told, and it's obvious which side I'm being told this from. So we will owe that. We will owe that back. That will be a deposit, a refundable deposit, and it will come out of the Premier League money. We also are in debt to the EFL. Obviously, we paid one off through money raised in the cup run, season ticket sales, and we've restructured a second deal because Betis has come out and said that. So we're already, say, 20 million down on the revenue that we would have received for being promoted. So we're behind already. Then we need to decide who is coming in, who's not staying, who's coming in. How we know we're not going to spend anywhere near the transfer fees we did last time we were in Premier League, because we can't. We've got to be sensible with this. We've got to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So you've got to always think, if we finish 20th or even 18th next year, what is the balance sheet going to look like? And are we still a sustainable club? So being a sustainable club, we can only spend what we make. I think I'll be amazed to see more than 50 million spent on transfer fees, and that includes next January. There's also the issue of Illiman and Sander being in the last years of their contracts. And if I'll be honest, I don't like to think about this really in a way, but I would sell them. I love Illiman and I think he's the best player that's ever played for us, certainly in my lifetime. But if he's not going to sign a new deal, we can't put all our eggs in the Illiman basket and the Sander basket, then get relegated and lose them both for nothing. So we need to get a decision on those in terms of contracts. From what I understand, and some of you may have seen my Twitter exchange with Darren where he's answered a lot of questions and I appreciate it, he turned Everton down himself because he knows he can get bigger and better. Why is he going to sign a contract with us when he could get a 25 million sign-on fee? He's not, is he? You know, if a Tottenham comes in for him even, or, you know, certainly a Liverpool or whoever. There was an article in L'Equipe today, and I get it's French newspaper, French agent, all that sort of stuff. 12 Premier League clubs are circling, looking at him. We can't compete with that. Even if it's half of it's true, and there's 6 of them, we can't compete with their finances. We've got to be realistic, and that money would be much needed in terms of rebuilding us. And again, that'll feed into my potential squad build as we look at it in a future video, because I think we've got to be, we're certainly not going to spend the amount, and I'm going to compare us, and people won't like this comparison, but when Forest got promoted, they had 5 loan players and a load of players out of contract. We've got a similar rebuild job on in terms of the turnover of the squad. So we've got to make decisions on players that some of us might not think are good enough. So your 50-50 players, some might think Norwood shouldn't come with us. I think we've got to sign Norwood. We've got to have some continuity in terms of what the existing squad is. You can't do what Forest have done and bring in an entire new squad. We're certainly not going to spend anywhere near, we won't spend a quarter of what Forest have spent. But we can't, I don't think you can lose more than 50% at playing staff, because it's an unrecognisable club. You've built a culture and an ethos. So it's an interesting conversation, really. We've sort of gone off on a bit of a tangent there that I didn't necessarily plan to do. But again, I just wanted to touch on yesterday being a hugely fantastic day, hugely enjoyable. It were a day for the fans. It were a day for the players to enjoy. And they certainly wanted to win it. You could tell by they were giving everything. But I think, again, it were a free hit. But it's such an exciting time now. I'm going to come on again and do another preview for West Brom, because I think it'll differ depending on what the result is tomorrow night when Luton play Borough. We only need a win in 4 games, but if they draw, we only need a point. And to be honest, we're virtually up because of the goal difference if they draw. So it might help settle nerves. I don't know, there'll be different ways to look at it, but we'll do that again before our West Brom game. So thanks again to everybody that came up and said hello and introduced yourselves. It were quite humbling, really. So, but if you don't already, what I would say is let's try and grow this channel as best we can, because, you know, I hugely enjoy making this content. I enjoy engaging with you guys and sort of going back and forth on our opinion. And we don't always agree. And it don't mean I'm right. And some of you might think, you know, Jeb had a stormer yesterday, or what are you talking about? Max Lowe's earned his chance. All opinions, and you're all entitled to them. And you know, I've been proven wrong. And when you do this sort of thing, there's video evidence of me being proven wrong. So you can all go back and see times I've called Eki, or what are you doing? And we're throwing it away, and all this sort of thing. There might not be as many positive visitors next season, but I'll always be real with you, and I'll always give my honest opinion, and just try not to be too negative. But I love the culture and the sort of community, I suppose, for want of a better way of phrasing it, that we're building here, because yesterday showed what an amazing fan base we can be when we come together. You know, absolutely fantastic. And days like that, and it were noted actually, and I saw it on Twitter. I think it was Mad Dog. I don't know you, pal, but I saw your tweet and I appreciate it. That there was one of the best things about yesterday were there were so many kids there, so many people like bringing their kids along for the experience of the day, and that's the new generation of Blades fans. These riding this wave of success will set the club up for the future. We've all had it passed down. The majority of us will be given this club by their parents. Mum or dad will be a Blade more than likely, and that is how you're entrenched in the club. It runs through the family. It runs in the blood. That's how it is. I met Michael for the first time yesterday. Lives in the Philippines, and he's a Blade because of his dad. You know, I'm a Blade because of my dad. And that's my cross to bear. But days out with family like we had yesterday, you'll remember, you know, for years and years. You won't forget them. So, hope you all enjoyed the day yesterday. I'm going to finish off and just leave you with some videos that have been circulating on social media. A couple of them include us. So, apologies for the terrible singing if you catch that one, but one of them days, weren't it? So, I'll be back on for a West Brom preview. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the Blades!